Hey, everybody, welcome. This is Tim Shaw. You're here at the Black Cat Lounge. Where else? Where the elite meet next to the dumpster transfer station, of course. And I want to let everybody know that it's great to see everybody out there. I hope everybody's getting into that whole spring fever thing. You know what I mean? I am like, I am dying to start doing stuff again, and getting out there and having fun. And it's something that I've wanted. I'm just like itching to get out into the world. And as anybody that follows me on Facebook knows that I am out like almost every day that it's nice now. Just getting out there and hiking the trails and getting out and just having a ball. Hey, Debbie, how are you? Good to see you. Tonight we got a really good show, and I'm really happy about it. And the Kling brothers and Ghost Lab were supposed to be in tonight, but unfortunately they had to cancel. And you know what? It's always good to have, well, a buddy who just wants to hang out and shoot the bull. It's great. Hey, Peg, Kathy? How are you? Melanie, how are you? And I just reached out to him, and he's a busy guy. He's a busy guy. He's not like just one of those regular fools that are just hanging out there, and just like, oh, well, I'm just gonna wait a minute. I gotta wake up from my nap. Hold on, and it's late. Oh, what happened? No, he's not like that. He's a good guy, and you know, he was just on the show with his co-host Lydia, and I reached out, and he just was like, "Yeah, let's rock and roll with this. Let's have some fun." So, ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce. He's a former corrections officer. He's about the size of a Mack truck. He likes to strangle tractors and throw like those big tractor tires around. I mean, the guy's like incredible. He is the founder of Buffalo Phantom Hunters. He is one of the founders of ParaNiagara, Western Block, which is a great place if anybody wants to go up for a paranormal investigation, for paranormal tours. It's a fun place to go to. I really like it. It's got a lot of characters right across from the Erie Canal. So it's got in Lockport, New York. So it's got a lot of history. It's got so much history. And of course, he is co-host with Marilyn Manson of Locked Up Paranormal, who is, and seriously, I'm just gonna throw it right out there and say it really is a fun show because they do talk a lot about jails and asylums and stuff that a lot of people really don't know that much about. And it's a lot of history, and if you're a history nerd, it would have been great. Oh, and hello, Nancy. Nancy has, by the way, let's see if I can get her up on the center stage here. Nancy Shaw says, "My darling wife, I would have done this show." No, you wouldn't have. So, so please, everybody, welcome a good friend of mine and a partner in crime. Someone who like I get in trouble with all the time. My buddy Frank Kupka. Hey Frank, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for filling in tonight and coming up. I know that usually at this time you'd be like doing this. Yeah, baby.
Yeah. Actually, kind of. Yeah, I'd be right in the middle of my tractor throwing class. You're right. Absolutely.
Yeah, I figured that. That. But I'm really glad that you came on because there's so much we can talk about, and when you're talking on your show, talking about jails and talking about all these interesting things, I'm in there like feverishly, like trying to type, and by the time I hunt and peck the little letters out, it's all you guys are already on another topic.
But what stinks about that though is I don't get to see them, but she sees them, so it's all good. We're gonna figure out how we can see all these comments and stuff, but we watch both of them now, so it's good. Hi, Christy.
Christy London, the amazing Christy London is here today. And if anybody needs a great reading, a great psychic reading, Christy London is one of the best out there in the Western New York area. So if you need a referral, just let me know, or just look her up on what else? Facebook. Mark, how are you? Mark wants to know when we're drumming, Frank.
As soon as it starts, I'll be more than happy to get out there. Hi, Nancy. I'll be more than happy to get out there. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, we got to get together. Maybe we'll all meet up at the old place. What do you
That
think,
sounds good.
Gal? One night that Mark, you're available, we'll run up there and we'll do a little drumming.
Oh, look who showed up, Chris.
Chris, how are you? Hey, listen, guys. Chris is a middleweight sumo wrestler that goes and works with shake wakes and has been a trainer of Frank at Curbs, but that's another story for another time. I'm sorry, Chris. I love you, Kenneth. How you doing today? Now let's get talking some paranormal stuff.
Sure, let's do it.
You went and you were one of the founders of Buffalo Phantom Hunters, and you were kicking around Western New York and looking around and seeing what's going on.
Mhm.
Over the years that you've been doing this, has anything really come center stage and surprised you? And I'm not saying scared you, because listen, guys, come closer. Nothing ever scares Frank Kupka except a burnt pizza. We'll talk about that another time. But
I haven't burned any pizzas yet.
no, you haven't, and you feed us well. But is during this time, have you ever run up against anything that like really kind of, you kind of like second guessed yourself and said, "Hey, what the hell happened?"
Uh, yeah, there was one spot when it actually wasn't local. When we were at the original Conjuring House in Rhode Island, there were some things that happened that made me wonder what's going on. And the feeling of being followed and watched was something that's never really happened too often. So it was kind of strange. Some of the stuff that we did in the basement really was kind of strange for me, because there were visions and things that I was seeing that I had never seen before. And same thing with when I was sitting on the Papasan chair in the library. There was, I was watching a video of the Warrens and the father going back and forth. I mean, I couldn't hear anything. It just was just playing over and over again. So it didn't really shake me, but it opened my eyes to a few different things, and it just kind of pushed that drive to find a little bit more about why that happens and that kind of stuff.
Okay, now Frank, you were up at the Conjuring House. Did it live up to its hype?
The night we were there, it was quiet. There was activity, there was things there we were getting, but again, it wasn't that off the wall kind of stuff that you hear that people go through, and everybody's experience is different. We both know that. Everybody knows that. So to say that it didn't live up to the hype probably isn't really true. It's just our experience wasn't as over the top as some of the other experiences were. We did have people. It did feel like people were following us around, and a lot of the stuff was personal that everybody felt that day. So it was definitely interesting. I definitely would love to go back and see if we can hype it up a little bit more and get that over the top activity.
That's the one thing I've found, that a lot of places, a lot of haunted locations. I know people. Now, I went to Waverly 4 times,
I'd love to go.
and I'm going to be honest with you. One time was insane.
Mm-hmm.
One time was totally insane. And I don't know if it was because there were tornadoes touching down and we were losing power left and right.
Could be.
Oh, I mean, it was brutal. But I don't know if it was a lot of high static electricity. I don't know. But the one time I was there, it was pretty crazy. It was pretty active. But the other 3 times, I would say they were active to a lower degree. And
Right.
why do you think that locations are high and low? Now, I know, like, you and I often go to different locations, and we can get a lot of stuff one day, and then the
Right.
next day, absolutely nothing. So why do you think do you think these places get fished out?
Yeah, I think a lot of them get like you said, fished out or pushed out. I mean, if there's too many people there or too many things going on, I think it kind of deadens the energy, so to speak. When you have 15 or 20 people coming in with 30, 40, 50 different pieces of equipment, I think it kind of pushes the energy off to the side, and it doesn't allow it to do what it normally does. And it just kind of, it just kind of goes stagnant because all the equipment there is kind of taking over the energy. Sometimes they feed off of all of that. We both know that. And sometimes I think it just kind of just pushes it away, and they just, they just don't want to deal with it after a while, I think.
I think I'm at the point now where it's like, I don't know if like, I think that first of all, let me just back up a little bit. I think that perhaps like on public hunts in smaller locations, I think they can be a little tough. And I think that the energy gets deadened, almost gets ground out. It's like
I
it just doesn't work. And
Right.
no matter what you do, no matter what you try, it's not going to happen. And I'm not talking spirits dancing around, and I'm not talking about, ghosts and stuff. I'm talking about energy. And I
No,
think a
absolutely.
lot of that it just doesn't work. And I think that that's a major problem, like on a lot of public hunts. And, I mean, I'm a little bit older than you, even though that you are officially an old man. You're
Yes,
a state pensioner like myself.
yes,
But
absolutely.
I think a lot of times that these locations oversell, excuse me, oversell. And I think that it depends on the size of the location. I mean, you can't really just keep jamming people into a place
Right,
and
exactly.
expect things to go up. And the other thing is that you have so much contamination. I mean, we were at Hinsdale this weekend, and it was nice, and
Right.
I appreciated being invited up there. But the contamination levels, I gave up trying to listen to anything on my recorders. It
Yeah.
just wasn't worth it. I tried twice to do some things, and I got nothing. And either I got nothing or I got contamination from another floor, or we were outside
Right.
and the wind was blowing. So there's no way in the world that I can say that we got anything. I have a couple possibilities that
Right.
like sounded like something, but nothing that we could say, oh, that's it. Is it, what was it, my hand slipping because it was so cold, in an
No,
area?
exactly.
So
And
you
that's
scrape on, you scraped on the recorder, you don't know.
and
So
that
I just
that's
want to let everybody know that I think a lot of it has to do it. And well, right here? Uh Peg Herman has said it's a case of energy pollution. Like too many there leaving too little space. That's a good possibility. That's a
absolutely.
good theory because I didn't think about that.
Well,
Because I think we absorb energy.
especially if we
We
give it out,
absorb
we
that.
absorb it as well. Yeah.
So I think probably smaller group would have been better. And okay. Hey Mandy, how are you? It's so good to see you, Mandy.
Hello, Mandy.
Hinsdale was rough, full, very quiet, and hard to pick up anything. And I have to agree with you, Mandy. It's good to see you. I'm glad to have met you this weekend.
Absolutely.
And it just got a little, just a little tough. It just got a little tough. And I know that it was starting to get frustrating for people.
Right.
So
That's
I
that's the whole reason why we started doing the private stuff and going in by ourselves because of those types of situations. And you get to
right,
these things, and there are
right.
too many people. You can't get the information that you're actually looking for because of all the contamination that's there.
How many people would you say? Now, you know what? You and I are indies. We don't belong to like you have your own like little, group thing going on, and but you don't really have full members. I'm just an indie guy. So I mean, let's say a small location. Now, ParaNiagara is huge. So you could
That's-
you could you could put 50 people in there and like nobody would hear anything from
That's
anywhere.
all right.
Yeah, you could just ParaNiagara, you could just the Western Block, you could just that place deadens and it's huge. But a smaller location, what would you say would be the max?
Um, if you we'll use Hinsdale again as an example. I would say the max there would probably be 5 or 6 people.
I agree. I
would
agree. Hey,
totally
Sheila, how are you?
that.
Sheila's in the room from that. She was there this weekend.
Hey Sheila, how are you? Yeah, I definitely wouldn't take about many more than 5 or 6, especially
See
if
that? I
especially at
agree.
this time of year where you want to go outside, but it's cold and you're only out there for a little bit. You're going to spend most of the time inside. 5 or 6 people for that place is perfect.
Yeah, I have to say that it. I'm not a big group guy. Of course, I mean I wouldn't join a group that any that would have me as a member. You know how that is.
Nor
You,
myself.
yeah, yeah, you're pretty close, man. You're
Yeah,
pretty
right.
close.
Nor myself. Exactly.
But when we start talking about that, smaller groups I think are more cohesive, and I think smaller groups you can go and actually perform experiments just a little bit. I think you have more control over the experiments rather than a larger group
I agree.
because let's face it, half the group will know what's going on, the other half the group has no idea what's going on.
Right.
And when you work with smaller groups, I think that's really the way to go. So I'm like with you, Frank. I'd actually rather go and rent the place out and just bring a
Right.
few of us up there,
And do what we got to
like
do.
Joe from Paranormal Oddities. Joe from Paranormal Oddities. There was a cancellation one day at Hinsdale, and he took like 6 or 7 of us. I can't remember how many, but it was a small group. We were able to go, and I caught what I think are 2 pretty decent EVPs,
Nice.
and we got some knocking on the walls, and we had some neat experiences. So I think a lot of people really should start thinking about that. The only problem is, and I'll bring it right up now. You're associated with ParaNiagara,
Right.
is cost. It's tough. People
Oh,
are,
yeah.
you know, gas is expensive, food is expensive,
No doubt. Hotels are
renting
expensive. Right.
renting a location is expensive.
Yes, no doubt. It's not a
So,
cheap thing.
oh no, no. And hey, there's my buddy. I love this. Whoops, Mandy, hold on. Jimmy Barnum. Jimmy Barnum is a good friend of mine. He used to live in Lilydale, and he's one hell of a reader. I love him to death, and I don't get a chance to see him that
Good
often.
evening,
Oh,
Jim.
and we got Mandy here. The Fear Circle was the most intense part of the evening at the Hinsdale for me. I've never gone there before and got nothing. Smaller groups would have been better. Yeah, the Fear Circle, the
Right.
Fear Circle where they were doing like hypnosis and one person was up in the hill and the other person was down in the living room, and actually it was pretty neat because they did get a little bit of correlation, and that's always neat to get. uh, but again, I mean, I felt bad for everybody because it was so hard. Somebody would be using one of the scanner boxes and it would just drift right,
Yep.
either that the music would go straight down or straight up, and
Right.
so there was just so much that we lost so much in that interpretation. But I mean, the way that I feel is this: if you're going to do it, there's enough places that you can go during the day,
Oh yeah.
enough public places. Because I mean, when I first started out, I used to go to parks. I used to walk through cemeteries.
Right. Right.
I used to hang out,
It's
and
exactly what we did too. Yeah.
yeah, there's a lot of historic places if you do your homework that are public, and you don't have to go inside.
Right.
You can walk the grounds for free and do that. And that is a great way of really working it. I mean, you can go up to the Hinsdale House, or not Hinsdale House, I'm sorry. You go to Hydesville, New York, and remember you and
Yeah.
I took you up there,
Absolutely. That was awesome.
and it's a little park.
Yeah.
So yeah, you might not be able to get inside the pole building where the foundations of the Fox Cottage were, but you can work on the outside of it. So you got
Right.
to be a little bit more creative, but also, I mean, you got to learn how to save your money. And I know Frank and I are like, we were just talking off the air how we were going to go. We actually have a location in mind that we're going to zip out to on a weekend whim. That's the way I'm gonna say it. And my wife is listening, so don't tell her. But anyway, yeah, I have to agree. I mean, hi Sheila. Sheila even says smaller groups. My experience in the last few years versus now, absolutely, we can do the same experiments on different days, months, and to see if we get the same results or different. Exactly.
Correct.
And
Yep.
again, I mean, I think that's the biggest problem that we're all kind of running into. Uh, I think that's and again, I mean, public events are great because there's a lot of people that use them as intros.
Right.
A lot of people don't have equipment. A lot of people just want the thrill ride of it.
Yeah.
But
And a lot of people want to see what they see on TV, and that's
and
part of the
that
equipment, part of the
and
whole.
it's tough, and it's tough, and I will admit it's tough, and especially like we're early in the season right now, so it's a little bit colder out there, and a little bit, and here's the other thing: when you guys, sometimes you go to these places and you can't get EVPs, you can't do audio because why? You've got frogs. That's all you hear is frogs croaking in the background, So I mean, you have to overcome these things. That's why you need all the little different tools in your tool belt, your little bat belt. Now, Frank, I got to ask you.
Yes.
Now, we were talking a little bit about paranormal investigations and that sort of thing up at Western Block. Now, Western Block is in Lockport, New York, and and the official title is Art 247, and I love it there. But I want and this is one of those places that is absolutely huge. You can put a lot of people in it.
Oh yeah, it's 180,000 square feet.
Man, that's unreal. That's unreal. You don't get a chance to do that. And there's all different like little rooms and galleries, and it's actually an art gallery, is what it is, and classrooms. Tell everybody a little bit of the history of it because I love it. Because first of all, I love Lockport, New York, because that's a place where I go and I actually go and I get a chance to work for the TV show there, the TV station up there. But also it. Well, yeah, we have to stop at Papa Leo's for sweet sauce. It's one of those things.
Right.
And I take my buddy Sean up there because Sean deserves it. He loves me. That's all I got to say. Anybody that loves me deserves Papa Leo's. But it's right. I mean, the history's up there. It's unbelievable. And you've got the Erie Canal, and right where the Western Block is, right across, literally across the street, you got.
Yep.
Oh, Mike, you got the Erie Canal, and everybody talks about it, like anything that may water may conduct things, may amp things up. So tell everybody a little bit about the history of Western Block.
Well, a little bit about the history is they built it in the 1800s, and it's been around for a very long time. It was a ship manufacturing parts, like I can't say what they are, but like when you tie the rope around on the dock, those types of things. And they built parts for ships that went up and down the canal and all over the world. Originally, the block is what it's called, Western Block, but originally it's called the Block Company, was up at the top of the corner, across the street. It's on the same side of the street up by the railroad tracks. The building was up there. And a few the employees decided that they didn't want to work there no more. So they moved down the street and opened up Western Block and started doing the same type of thing. And, lo and behold, one thing led to another, and there was just a big fire at the old place, and they don't know what happened. So then Western Block took over, and they started doing this stuff. Around the time of the Erie Canal, when the canal was being built, we get a lot of experiences there because of the little kids that, between not having any labor laws and things like that, they had little kids that worked inside the factory. If a piece of equipment broke down, it's easier to put a little kid in there to, try to fix it and pull the part out or that kind of stuff. So there was a lot of accidents that happened with them. A lot of accidents happening building the canal because they would use the little kids again to go into tight spaces, drop the pieces of dynamite they needed to blow the canal open, and some of them made it out and some of them didn't. It's fascinating because right there up the street a little ways, up on Exchange Street, I believe it is, where Exchange and Market come together, was also Little Italy. So you had a mafia influence, or an ethnic influence in that whole area that was there. There was a brewery at the top of the hill and on this property. We know that they were making their own beer. They actually, because barrel makers were in short supply, they actually hired their own barrel maker, and he was up there making barrels and sending them down. What they would do is they would brew the beer, and this is during Prohibition, they'd brew the beer and they'd send it down into the raceway, which is a waterway underneath the building, kind of like a spillway, and it spills out into the canal. But it goes under these buildings, And what they would do is like I said, they dump the barrels up at top, they'd catch them at the bottom, and then they would be inside these buildings, and nobody's none the wiser. There's no shipping, there's no people walking around. You just from one building to the next, you dump it in, and that's it. They use the raceways to get rid of their problems, as Heather would say. We all know problems would be people. So,
and being so close, and seriously, being so close to the canal, I mean, we know,
Joe.
I mean, mob influence. Yeah. Okay. Okay, Joe. But I know, like, the Erie Canal, I mean, along the, like, as it came to the western terminus here in Buffalo, New York, there were places called Doug's. There was a place called Doug's Dive, and
Right.
it was below the canal water level, and there was a trapdoor, and they would take you in the back room and dispatch you, and
Yep.
you'd end up in the canal. And I know that every year they would go and redredge that section of coming in through Buffalo into the western terminus, and they would find
Oh yeah.
corpses in there. They, and of
Absolutely.
course, I mean, that was like, all the bordellos and whorehouses
Well, of
all
course.
the,
Yeah.
and all the bars and everything were, they're always in that area. Now I got to ask you, is it true? Is
That.
it true that there was a bordello in that section of the building? And the reason I'm asking is because every time we go in there and we start talking about bordellos, we
Mhm.
get reactions on different things.
Now, the basement part of the building you're talking about, where we're the little
Right.
stone building there. Okay, we believe that was part of it. We're not exactly sure what part of it. Yes, Sheila, it is open to small investigation teams. All the information is at ParaNiagara.com. You can go check it out. Or you can email Heather there, or you can give her a call, and she will get back to you with all that information. It is definitely open to private investigations. But getting back to the stone building now, we believe it's part of it. There's also parts of the. It's like up the second and third floor is definitely like going back in time, because they just dropped and left everything there. It was like here today and gone tomorrow. That was it. We're closing up. Get out. Take whatever you need and just get out.
Oh,
But
by the
go
way,
ahead.
we have to put this up there. We were, I have to, I have to share this with everybody. Sean is my intrepid buddy who is not afraid of anything except ghosts. And
That's true.
we, our Frank and I and Heather, and Sean, we were going through the building, and of course there was a door that opens and closes on command, which was pretty neat. I will say that that was neat to see. And there was nothing around there that we can find anyway. It may be organic in nature, but as of right now, we don't know. But we ended up way up, way up in the attic, and let me tell you, I never seen a bunch of people like little wussies hit the ground when there was like this bat came flying through. It was almost as good, Frank, as when Joe and I were up at Wildwood, and the bat that was that big that Joe says was the size of a pterodactyl.
Yeah, I remember
When that came back, it was that was hysterical. But yeah, that bat was. I didn't expect the bat to come down, but yeah, you never know. And I think that's the charm of the place, because it's
right.
so nice. It's got, and in the wintertime, it's got heat,
Got
and
heat.
it's got so much history to it. And there's some good vibes in there. I mean,
Yep.
when I was in there and I was doing camera work for Within These Walls, it was just a tremendous. We got tremendous reactions in there, but you never know. I mean, but I think it's a fun place to go. And Joe says the bat was 6 feet wide at Wildwood. Okay, Joe.
But no, it is. It's a great place to investigate. Love doing it there. It's amazing. Even our public hunts, people still get good stuff, because our public stuff really isn't huge. I think the largest group we had was a group of 17, so it's really not huge. So we do get some good activity and some good things going on there, and people see a lot of shadows bouncing around, and it's nice to sit there in the hallway and not have to to promote people to see things. They're saying it on their own. They're like, did anybody else see that? Did you see that? Yeah. And then they're all pointing here and pointing there. So it's good to sit back and not do that. I try to do that. I try to let the people see what they see and hear what they hear on their own, and not, lead them into something. It's not, sometimes you have to, hey, did you see that over there, or this, there, the other thing? But we try to let them see it. And for the most part, I would say about 95% of the time, they're pointing stuff out to us, and we're just confirming the stuff that they saw.
Now let's just talk. This is a historic site or a historic photograph that I have right here of the original buildings. That's the way it looked with the fire department that was there at the time.
Hello, Heather. Thank you for joining us. Yes.
So
that was attached to, now the fire station and the police station were attached to the building too. And Heather's joining us too. She can chime in and give her some information too. So
now let me ask you this. Now there's a lot of rumors. Now here's the problem. How much history is written about the Western Bloc? Because I know there's a lot of places that like make up a lot of history about it when they can't figure it out. That place has been there. It's been solid.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
in actuality, Heather has numerous journals that were left over from Mr. Keenan, who left a lot of journals. Everything he did was pretty meticulous. He wrote down just about everything and anything for the length of time that he had it. So she's got numerous journals just from him that she's going through slowly and finding more and more information out. And the more we do things, the more she reads, the more we start to put pieces together about different things. So there is quite a bit of written history just from his journals. As far as the rest that goes before that, I know she goes to the Historical Society and stuff like that and gets a lot of information, but his journals are really, really detailed. There he is, William Keenan. His journals are really detailed and gives a lot of information as to what the history and the stuff of the building was.
I think to me, it's so important to have the history. Question. Now, you guys know what I do in portals. They keep me sequestered, and they keep me in a hotel room, and which is great. And I have no clue what's going on or where I'm going, which is like my natural state of being. But as an investigator, would you rather know the history up front, or would you want to go and, do your investigation and come back and find out what the history is?
Me personally, because I like history just like you do, I like to know a little bit. I don't want to know everything. I want to know small details so I can ask questions to the appropriate questions so I can get the answers that we're looking for. I don't need to know all of the history or every single piece of it, but the more that you know, the more you can piece together the puzzle that you're trying to put together, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, it does. But a lot of times what happens is that you go and oops, there we are. A lot of times what happens is you get colored. You have to watch to make sure that that you're not like waiting for that answer to come through. You're not waiting to hear that, well, yeah, he's responding to this because
Right.
and that's something that I find that you really have to watch, because a lot of people really kind of take advantage of that. They go and they they all of a sudden they build a story about the experience instead of experiencing it, and just then maybe see if you can like fit it in somewhere along the line.
Yeah, right. I mean, I don't like. I agree with what Andrea says that way for sure. I mean, I'm not a medium, but yeah,
you're definitely an extra large, buddy.
Well, yeah, it's I don't mind going into areas that are and go blind into an area. I just need an overall like a generality of the history. It's not so much to direct questions or, like you said, to wait for something. Just, well, this happened, this happened, this happened,
Yeah.
this happened.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So those things happen here. So now I know that I can put a format of questions together and start asking this and start asking that, or like with Western Block and the more that Heather reads into those journals, now we can start asking questions,
Yes.
and puzzles together
Yes.
that we're trying to put together and that type of stuff.
I love it. Hey, we're going to take a real quick break here for a quick little station ID and to pay some bills. Why? Because you're listening to the Black Cat Lounge, and we are naturally cheap, and we have to go and pay for stuff. Stay tuned. The Black Cat Lounge is sponsored by Paranormal Oddities, the little store with the big heart, Buffalo Phantom Hunters, Patronus Photographic for all of your photography and design needs, Nancy's Sewing Room, masks, aprons, purses, and more, and Wild Raven Candles for those magical times. And we're back. I'm Tim Shaw, and our guest tonight is the one and only, the man who loves to strangle anything that may go and be larger than a pachyderm, Frank Kupka. I had to think about that word there for a couple seconds. You know, I haven't used pachyderm in years. You know, but okay. Let's talk about kids and the paranormal. Now, I'm one of those guys that's sort of like, I don't know if I want to expose really young kids, but I mean teenagers and even late, just preteens. They have this learning. They love to learn, and they're already watching all the shows on TV anyway.
Right.
And you guys at Western Block have gone and designed a program for families. Talk about that.
So what I did was I reached out to Joe at Paranormal Oddities, and he helped me. He actually didn't help me. He gave me his outline to use that he uses for his ghost hunting 101. So what I did was I looked at it, read it over, and I just adapted it to the kids. I took out all the scary parts that he uses and all the other stuff. So I give them some of the history, some of the stuff that goes on. We bring out the equipment, we put it on a table, we explain to them what the equipment how the equipment works, that kind of stuff. And then what we do, that takes about, I would say about 45 minutes or so. We take about a 5-minute break. We let them pick out a piece of equipment that they want to use. And then what we do is we take them out to out into the block, out into the Western Block, and we let them do some investigating. We let them use dowsing rods. We let them use the real-time EVP player, the voice recorders, that type of stuff. And they do a little mini investigation and they do some stuff like that. It's just a good exposure for all of us because, like you said, they're all watching the ghost shows anyway. So let's teach them, if they're that interested, let's teach the next set of people coming up behind us the right way to go about doing things and how to do that kind of stuff. And that's when, Heather and I thought about it, and that's what we did. So that's how it came about, and that's how we do. It's $25 per family. So, it's not this per person.
Wow. Wait a minute. Stop right there.
Yeah.
$25 per family.
Correct.
That is amazing. And what I love about it is it's like, there's no way you guys are breaking even on this one because
no.
I just love the fact that you guys are doing it for the love of actually getting out there and sharing it. $25 for an entire family.
Sure.
That is now you guys do it now on a weekend, like a weekend afternoon.
Yep, we do it. It's from a 2 to 4, and it's during the afternoon. Like when you go to ParaNiagara, you'll see that the family section is there. It's a PG thing, because obviously it's in the afternoon. It's during the light time, so it's not as spooky or scary. Because we do have kids from 8 to 13 is what the age range is. So they do come in again. Like I said, we show them what goes on, gives them a few shoot videos, show them all the equipment, and then take them out there and let them do their thing. I mean, I kind of guide them a little bit. You can ask this, that's, you need to ask yes or no questions for this or this kind of stuff. Just give them a little bit of guidance, and then they do their own thing. The first group we had last 2 weeks ago or last month loved it, and the next one we have coming up is less than
I love Peg. Peg sees the obvious in everything. I love it.
The next one we got coming up is March 26th. It's from 2 to 4. You can go to ParaNiagara.com and sign up, and we'll be there. That's the next one we have coming up. We're doing once a month now through May, and then from June, July, and August, we're taking a break because we got some stuff we're going to do. And summertime, there's so much stuff going on.
There is.
We figured it wasn't worth it to do that. So we decided that between June, July, and August, we were going to start doing some investigations and get some stuff out there and that kind of stuff too. So
see, that's why I'm like kind of, and I know I've upset a few organizers, but I want to get back into the nuts and bolts of what we do and how we do it, and I want to look at things a little bit differently. I want to go and I want to be able to. I want to shed a lot of my preconceived notions that I've used for 1,000 years, and I want to get out there and I want to get back into the field. And I do miss it. I really do miss it. So I'm not going to be doing as much on the event trail as I have in the past. And you're right, summertime is just insane.
yeah.
You know, it just gets so bottled up. Now, what were the reactions? What were the reactions of the kids? What are reactions of the kids? What did the kids? And then wait a minute. And after that, what were the reactions of the parents?
So they start out a little timid, but then then they get into it, and it's like the one kid was using the dowsing rods, and he was like, ooh, you could see it in his face. So he was looking at, they were asking questions, they were crossing and opening and all that stuff, and the parents were really good with it. They were hey, this is what you came for. Come and do this. Check it out. Try it. Do this. They were really supportive, and it was really good. It was. I was really happy with the way the first one went. So,
I think it really, again, I wouldn't recommend like really getting kids involved for like mediumship and psychic development until they're at least 14. I wouldn't discourage it, but I wouldn't like really start teaching them the nuts and bolts of it. I mean, that's because there's a lot more involved with it. There's more psyche involved in it. But when we start talking about meters, we start talking about, I think it's a great idea. Let them experiment and and you know what's cool is let them go and make their own judgments,
right.
Of let's say, this is cool, or, I mom and dad, thanks for taking me, but I would rather go and go to a sports event or something, or pizza, either way.
Yeah,
now,
exactly.
Okay, now here's the thing.
How you doing, Chris?
When we start talking about the Western Bloc, and unfortunately I don't have everything loaded in.
It's okay.
You guys captured something that really is hard to, I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. If objectively, if I didn't know you and if I didn't know anything, I could go and say a video that you captured could be faked or whatever. But I'm going to be honest with you. I do know you. I know that you wouldn't do this. So when I saw the video, I was like, what? And then you came back and said, listen, we tried all different ways to duplicate it, and we just couldn't. So tell everybody about that video, because I got to tell you what, it is really, I have to think about that. It's really a cool video.
Now, what the best part about the video is the fact that night when we were doing it was a public investigation. It was the second part of it. We had just finished downstairs and we came upstairs. They were discussing EMFs and stuff like that. And they started to walk down the hallway to the big shadow hallway that we have down there. And you know where that is. And I was standing in the doorway because I usually bring up the rear and make sure everybody's there and make sure a head count is there. So I turned and I looked through the doorway into the classroom, and I saw that shadow. And I really didn't think anything of it, and never really dawned on me that it was anything. I actually thought it was Heather walking through and coming up to meet us because she had come from a different way. Well, the classroom's not very big, so I waited a couple seconds and I looked and I'm like, well, where is she? So I went in and I could feel some energy, and I looked around and she wasn't there. And there's another step up into a small little area and she wasn't up in there. So then I started to wonder, I'm like, what did I just see? So I went back through the door and I was looking for, I had heard a knock on one of the other doors, and I went over there because I thought it was another stairwell. I thought she was coming up, and it was an office. And so now I'm really shaking my head going, this is ridiculous. So I turn around and she's standing there. So I said, "Did you come through the classroom or did you come up these stairs?" She goes, "No, I turned the lights off and I just came up the stairs." I said, "So you didn't just go through the classroom?" She said, "No, not at all." I'm like, "Well, you need to check your security camera and see if something happened." I explained to her what I saw and what had happened. And we were both kind of like, "Well, this is really cool. Hopefully something happens." So at we finished our investigation, finished for the night, went home, got up to use the bathroom. I I checked my phone. I got a message on Messenger, and lo and behold, she sends me a 4-second clip of the shadow that I saw walk across the thing that her security cameras caught. Now, the clip is only 4 seconds long because the security camera only catches motion. It starts recording when the motion starts, and it stops recording when it stops seeing the motion. So it's only 4 seconds long. But when you do watch the video that we have downstairs, in our introduction area, you can actually see once the video kind of slows down, you can see it pixelating, you can see it disappearing. People have brought it to our attention that they see something else in front of the table that's there. They see all kinds of different things. It's just unexplainable. It's one of those personal experiences that you can actually say, well, I can actually look and say, I saw that, and now this is what this captured it. So to me, it's fabulous. And when you do come, when you do come there, you will see it. I mean, I do have it on my phone. Unfortunately, we can't put it up here. It would be fantastic for people to see, but it blew me away. That definitely blew me away.
And again, I mean, if a skeptic saw it, let's face it, a skeptic can turn around and
Sure,
rip everything apart, and
absolutely,
everything's magic, and they can sleight of hand. That's why I sometimes I kind of really look and I appreciate personal experiences. So this was really, like, for you, was a personal experience that was actually backed up by evidence, which was really great. And again, I mean, I know you and Heather as stand-up people, so I personally believe it. So
and we
I
welcome people to come up into that classroom and we take you up there and we welcome you to prove us wrong. Tell us it's not what we see. Tell us we're full of it. I mean, I had one guy, we were going back and forth. He said it could have been somebody walking across the telephone wire or the wire outside. And I'm just like, he goes, "Oh, it could have been a raccoon or something." I'm like, did you really see the video? Did that look like a raccoon to you? Really? Seriously? I mean,
really. I'm gonna have to agree with you there. And I know raccoons can get into a lot of different
sure,
places,
absolutely, sure.
but I don't know I don't. Let's put it this way. I think it's something. It's my belief that might be that it's something. You guys have tried to go and debunk it. You guys have tried to go and really figure out what the hell, if it's faked. Let's try to do it, because nobody wants, nobody
No,
wants
absolutely.
anything faked.
No.
And I mean, you've tried, and it is it's crazy. It's a crazy thing.
Yeah.
What did you experience previous to this? Let's say, did you have any experiences, or did you have any feelings just before you saw that shadow go by? I always like to ask these things.
No, actually. Like I said, they were discussing the EMFs and the the electromagnetic fields, stuff like that. They were using the K2s to show them, you can pick up. They were at the electric box. You can pick up the electric box and how it does that. So really, no, I wasn't really even paying attention to anything. I was just standing there listening to what they were saying, waiting for them to move, and I just happened to turn and look, and that's when I saw it.
Debbie Emerson, our friend Debbie, actually came up for she actually came up to New Jersey to Joe's, the Paranormal Oddities, for an event, and
Nice.
I've seen her and I'll run into her at a couple of more events this year. But she'd like to know, is there any place we can see that video? Do you have it up anywhere right now, or is that
right
just
now? It's not. It was up on I was on a show called Entity Voices, and they did have that on their show, and they did use it for their promo. Unfortunately, I think they changed companies, or they changed something, and it's not there anymore.
Yeah, I think it's a different network now that they went
Yeah,
to.
they're a different network now, so that particular video is not there anymore. So I'm not even sure if they use it as a promo, but I'm going to get it watermarked, and it's going to get up on Buffalo Phantom Hunters and Buffalo and ParaNiagara. It's going to be up. Going to be up soon. It's just something that I want to protect and make sure it's not scattered all over the place.
I agree.
So
I agree because people steal, and
right.
and they use it for their own purposes, unfortunately. Hey, let's talk about your new project. Let's talk about, what are we going to talk about? Locked Up Paranormal. Let's talk about what it is, when it is, and who the hell is Frank and Lydia?
Well, Locked Up Paranormal is a new podcast that we do. It's every other Monday. Last night was a show on Missouri State. I keep saying University. Missouri State Penitentiary. We've done Alcatraz. We have done Leavenworth. We have done the Tower of London. We've done Eastern State Penitentiary. And basically, what we do is we research some of the history of the facility.
Oh, where did that come from?
I wonder where that came from. I wonder, did she send that to you?
Yes, she did. No, you sent it to me.
So we research the history of the facilities, and we research the paranormal activity that's been reported there and that type of stuff. And we just come on and we discuss it. We give you the history of it, whether there's been executions, whether people have died there, suicides, riots, that type of stuff. And then we give up what there she is. Yeah. Locked Up Paranormal rocks. Thank you, Peg. Appreciate that. We love the squirrel. So, I mean, it's a combination of everything. Again, I like the history, so we do that stuff. And obviously I love the paranormal. So to combine them both was really a good idea. And I really do thank Tim for giving me the idea, because we were sitting around one day trying to figure something out, and I went home and he sends me this message. I got the perfect idea for you. And that was that. So this all came from Tim, and I do greatly appreciate it. We're going to also, I think Tim and I are also going to do a lecture about it, or a talk about it, so we can get that. And I would like to eventually go to some of these paragons and discuss this stuff too, as well.
Because a lot of people, because everybody goes to asylums. Don't get me wrong, but I'm going to be totally honest with you. Every asylum to me looks the same. It really does, from the inside out. It really does, and I don't know why, but it's just sort of, just the way I look at it. These poor houses and all that. It's the same thing. Prisons, on the other hand, to me, each one has an individual character. I mean, you have some that are gothic, like you got Mansfield. Mansfield Reformatory is beautiful. It's gothic. It's got all these spirals, and when you go inside, you've got freestanding cells, and your visiting area in the center hub. It's really neat. You go down to Philly and see Eastern. Eastern is like crazy. It's like right nothing I've ever seen.
It's right in the middle of the city, right smack dab in the middle of the city, right down Main Street.
I still can't believe that somebody hasn't gone and offered a good buck for it, so they can knock it down and put residential areas and high rises there. But it's amazing. Yeah, but it's an amazing place. I mean, you go to a lot of these places, even Alcatraz. When you start looking at Alcatraz was a military. Let's say, really, it was a military base, because they still have Civil War bastions in there.
Yep.
You have, then it was was it a military prison? I can't remember now. I can't remember the whole history behind it.
It was started out as a military port, to protect the port of San Francisco.
Right.
Then it was a military prison, but then I believe Leavenworth opened, so they transferred those there, and it just became a federal prison after a while.
Well, again, it's just like Eastern. It's got has its list of amazing characters there, and its lore and its history. So, I mean, to me, I don't know. I love going in there, and I think Frank and I and a couple other people are going to go on a super secret mission. We're going to go to Lyons, New York. We're going to check out the what is it now? The
Wayne County.
The Wayne County Historical Museum is actually the prison. So
Nice.
we're going to go down there, and right now we gotta iron out a date, and we're gonna go down there. That's gonna be one of our weekend super secret missions, or maybe during the week. Maybe just Frank and I'll go out there, because
That'll work. Debbie, it's every other Monday at 9 p.m. Locked Up Paranormal on Facebook and Locked Up Paranormal on YouTube as well.
And Debbie says I'll be spending the night in a prison in Ireland in October. Debbie,
awesome.
I don't know what you did, but don't mention my name because it's Scottish. You won't get any special privileges, unfortunately. And Peg has written, it's a history along with paranormal activity that creates the wow factor of the prison investigations. I agree 100%.
Yep.
And one of the greatest things I ever got a chance to do was when years ago, when I was associated with one agent, he was putting on an event and he invited me down. And when I got there, he says, go wherever you want, and I talked to some of the volunteers, and the volunteers were like, hey, just be careful, but go wherever you want. And I had free reign for the entire day of Mansfield Reformatory. And then later on, another Eric actually went and allowed me to go up to a third floor where there was yet more, there was more prison graffiti and that sort of thing, which is just like blew my mind when we were up there. So it's just when you get a chance to go through these places, I highly recommend it. And if you go to tour, if you go to one of these places, most times, Frank, agree with me, a lot of them are like self-guided tours, aren't they? Where you can kind of get lost and just kind of wander and take your recorder.
Yep. When we went to Eastern State, that's what it was like. You pay your $40. They give you the brief history. They tell you this, and this, and hey, we'll see you in a couple hours. And that's basically what it is. You wander around and you do what you do. And we saw shadows. We saw things bouncing in and out of different cells and some other stuff. And, somebody asked me how I felt about it. And it's, for me, after working in prisons for 26 years, I felt the day-to-day operations of what was going on. So all the energy I felt was, it wasn't nasty. It wasn't evil or anything like that. But I felt the everyday workings, they're moving back and forth from here to there, doing their work. Well, these two guys are fighting. So you can feel the energy from that, just the day-to-day type of stuff. I didn't really feel any kind of outrageous kind of, well, this is nasty, this is bad, and this is no. It for me, it's different because being in that environment, I know what that environment feels like, and that's what I felt.
Let me ask you this, because you spent a good portion of your sordid youth working in prisons. I was going to say in prison. I don't want people to think you were in prison. Listen, my relatives are on one side of the bars and you were on the other side of the bar. That's the way it worked. But do you think that you actually are a catalyst or perhaps a trigger object if you go into these prisons?
Sometimes, yeah. I mean, sometimes. I mean, when we went to Mansfield, truthfully, we went to Mansfield. It was a public thing, but by 9 o'clock, everybody was gone. So we had free reign for 3 hours on our own. The guy's like, "Oh, you guys sticking? Oh, hell yeah, we're sticking around. We're gonna go wander and do what we got to do." So we were getting some good stuff, and we were getting some good EVP. Not so much, you could hear the EVPs, but when we went into we were in the libraries where we were, and we weren't getting anything in there. It was just kind of, I just said, you know what, screw this. And I just went off, boom, boom, boom. It's time to go, lock in, blah, 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 blah. And that's when F you, F off, blah, blah. We had like off, F you, go F yourself. I mean, and they were boom, 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 boom. So we started laughing like, yeah, that's a prison for you right there.
Well, you know what it's like when lights out. I always remember we were in Elmira and we were just below the prison, because the prison is on a hill.
Yep.
And I forget whatever time it was, but it was lights out, and it was like Animal House. I mean, all you heard was like hooting and hollering and swearing and everything. And I just started laughing. I thought, I was going to ask you. I've always wanted to ask you about that. If because you were so used to it, because it's every night. There's never a quiet night. Never, where.
Yeah, I mean, it gets quiet. I mean, once lights out are usually at 9 o'clock. Well, lights out are at 11 o'clock.
Yeah.
So from 9 o'clock they lock in. At 9:30 they lock in. So everyone's left. So then they're winding down, and you've got a lot of hustle and bustle inside the cells. But by 10:30, 11 o'clock, it does kind of quiet down.
Right. But yeah, I was always going to ask you if
but you'll get some that are, some places that, like some areas of the facility, like the SHUs,
right.
A lot of times, some of those guys will sleep all day long just to bang on the wall all night long, and they drive not only the other inmates crazy, they drive the officers crazy, obviously. But I mean, there was an inmate we had when I was downstate. He banged on the wall 24/7. I mean, the only time I think he stopped was to eat and go to the bathroom. Other than that, all he did was bang on and it's just constant boom, 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 and they're metal walls, so it just resonates through everything. And it's just, after a while, it's like, dude, you need to stop. But that's what they do. They try to drive each other crazy. That's what they'll do.
It's a high art.
Yeah.
Now, last night, I think it was last night, you guys were talking about, you and Lydia were talking about that the fact that infirmaries in prisons are very active paranormally.
Yeah, we seem to be finding that out when we're doing our research.
Why do you think that is? Now, because I know like in minimum securities it's a little bit different, but when you start going for your medium and your maximum, I don't understand. I was kind of wondering about that, because is that because, let's say, like in a medium security, people, you have inmates that are like on their last legs, and they're really sick.
Yeah,
and they're not expected to live long, and they kind of get stuck there.
I think so too, and I think a lot of it has to do with like the transfer of energy, like we talked. So you get into a fight in the yard, so your energy's there. That's where all that main energy comes from. But now, all right, you got to go to the infirmary because you're all stabbed or you broke your hand or whatever the case may be. So now your energy is transferring over to a new area because now you're coming down. All of that adrenaline is slowing down. The imprint is staying in this area, that kind of stuff. So some of them do die because they're stab wounds or whatever the case may be, or maybe they just had a heart attack or whatever it is. And in the infirmary areas, there is a lot of sick and dying. And we all know, just like in a hospital, sick and dying, all that energy stays. So
right,
it's a combination of all of that, where you can start off in one area, you get into an incident in one area and you come back and you end up in another area. So I think it has a big combination of all that stuff.
Bucket list. Where do you want to go next?
Well, my bucket list obviously is Alcatraz. I want to go to Alcatraz. I want to go spend the night in Alcatraz and do that. But Missouri State with some of the stuff, Missouri State with some of the stuff I read. But right now, I think the closest two are West Virginia and Brushy Mountain. So I wouldn't mind hitting those two if we can get the people to do those.
I heard Brushy is interesting.
Yeah.
Some people have been up there. They told me the same thing. They said it really. They said the shadow activity is off the wall. And you know what? They compared it. Now, they compared it to what is it? Waverly, because of shadow activity.
Oh, really?
And yeah, because shadow activity at Waverly can, if you're there on the right night, I can't explain it, but I mean it gets pretty crazy. But they said Brushy shadow activity is great. And there's Kenneth. He's been to Alcatraz twice. Now, Kenneth, you're too. I know that you're way too young to have been locked down. So I know that you were there as a visitor. So I'm glad that we cleared that up. I didn't want anybody else thinking that you were in Alcatraz for some other reason. And he wrote here that the infirmary is very active, but they don't let tourists up there. Oh, I wonder why.
Well, that's interesting. Did they give you a reason as to why? Did they say anything? No, I don't. In the research we did, Mark, I don't believe there were any executions at Alcatraz, from what I can remember. I could be wrong. Don't quote me on it. I could be wrong, but from what I remember, I don't believe any of the executions took place at Alcatraz. They shipped them out to Leavenworth or somewhere else.
I was going to say, because I believe that most of the executions would have been in Leavenworth, because they had a death house there,
Yeah.
and I think that was just an isolation. I think was Alcatraz was for the hardcore cases that used to go and used to escape,
Yeah.
or they were constantly doing
They-
something, or it was to isolate them in a way that they couldn't go and, let's
a
say, for
lot of,
organized
lot of high
crime.
profile. A lot of high profile.
Now, what do you? Okay, now I'm going to ask you something there. Okay, Nancy
Yep. She said,
Davis has said
"Thank you."
no executions were performed at Alcatraz, and Kenneth just brought up something I was going to talk about. The Birdman was there, but they used to let people up into that area, but they stopped. Now, I often wonder about that, because, as a kid growing up, I went and I saw the Burt Lancaster Birdman of Alcatraz, of course, and everybody loved him. And actually, he wasn't that really nice of a person, now was he?
He was an asshole. Period. He was an asshole, and nobody really liked him. And it's funny you bring that, because he wasn't allowed to have birds in his cell. He was just researching birds and doing all stuff. So when they went to his cell, it was plastered with pictures of birds and everything, all this stuff. So the misconception of the Birdman of Alcatraz was like that they allowed him to have all these birds in his cell, and that wasn't the case at all.
I remember watching a show about him, a doc about him, and I remember there was a man reading this letter from this young child asking to have him pardoned, and then they started reading like his diaries or journals or whatever, and how he was he was like a pedophile, and how he talked about how he would have sex with this boy who was at the age that kid had written this letter to. So it was like, what a homogenized movie that was. That was just an amazing.
Absolutely.
And
Yep.
what we got here?
Capone was at Alcatraz. Capone was also at Eastern State Penitentiary.
Eastern State.
And Ken, you're right. They when we were doing the research, there was they had a medium that they brought in, and up in the infirmary area, and she picked up on him being there.
So yeah, I mean, that makes a lot of sense that they put that they did fear him, because yourself. I mean, you got somebody that's batshit crazy and nothing to lose.
No, absolutely.
Those are the most dangerous you have, because those are the ones that have nothing to live for.
No, exactly. And they don't care about anything else either. So
no, just mayhem and chaos, and and whatever they can get away with. But yeah, so I mean, Alcatraz would be great. I had an opportunity to go to Alcatraz with the late Constantinos, and I regret now not going up, going to see it. But we all, unfortunately, the Constantinos, that's a tragic story in itself that we can talk about some other day. But Alcatraz seems to be an amazing, amazing place. Now, what was it? Now, there's a couple of really neat prisons in in the West. Which is, I don't know if you'll know this one. There's one that was like in the middle of nowhere. Oh my gosh.
Is it running now? Is that the Colorado prison that's in the middle, that's underground?
That's the Fed. That's the Fed. That's the max lockup. That's the super Fed.
That's where Gotti died.
Right. Yeah, that's the one. That's where Kaczynski's in, and a couple of the other the shoe bomber.
Yep.
And yeah, so no, there was one in there. Oh no, I know what I'm thinking of. The one that Clyde Barrow that was in, and just before when they released him, was that in Missouri?
Is that Wyoming? Was it the Wyoming one? Because I was looking up one when I was looking for Missouri State, and it was Wyoming something, and it was Wyoming prison that I was looking up, and it was from 1800s, and it had something to do with Clyde Barrow, and all of a sudden, I found like maybe an article about 2 paragraphs long, and that was it, and then there was nothing else.
See, because that's where they said that he he went in as a young guy, and they apparently he was sexually abused and
Right.
beaten in there. And when he got out, he came back and made a route and came back and killed one of the guards.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I believe it was one of the guards, and I think he killed the one prisoner, or the
I'll
one prisoner.
look it up and find out what I'll look it up and find out what it is. Now they did say that one of the Barrow gang was actually um, incarcerated at Missouri State. The female, and I can't remember what her name was.
Wasn't that was Clyde? That was Clyde Burrow's brother's wife.
Yes.
That was incarcerated
made
there.
mention of her, and when I went back to find it, I couldn't find the article where she was because I was going to bring that up yesterday.
Because she wrote a book.
Yes,
she wrote a book about it, and it's actually a pretty interesting book. I will say that I enjoyed it.
And when I couldn't find it, I did find a list. There was a list of the 13 most famous inmates that were there. I was surprised that her name didn't make the list just because she was part of the family.
Right. So. Right. And Sheila's asking, my top bucket list is the Queen Mary. Have you been there? Have either of you been there to investigate? I've never been there to investigate, but I have been on board it. And I'm going to tell you, it's weird. It's a strange feeling when you go on there. First of all, it's disorientating because the central hub, when you're walking down the corridors, it does have a little bit of a slant to it. It's got a little arc to it. The rooms are very small and extremely small, but one of the most haunted areas on board the Queen Mary, of course, is the swimming pool, the gymnasium swimming pool area. And I will say that's a crazy that did give me the willies when really? I did go through there. Yeah. And when I was there, I think there's a Titanic exhibit still there, but later on I found that my uncle had gone and actually had come back, sailed from England here back to the United States in New York City on board the Queen Mary right after World War II. Wow. So he was, so it kind of has a family thing to it, little ring to it. But yeah, it is really cool. Anyway, guys, hey, Diane. Hey, Diane, how are you? Diane's a good friend of mine. She's a paranormal investigator. She's in the Pittsburgh area, and she's like she was just up in Alaska doing something crazy up there. So I'm gonna have to get her and talk to her about that. Hey, I gotta thank you for being on the show.
I thank you for having me. I greatly appreciate it. I hope everybody enjoyed it.
It's so fun because of the fact that we were able to go. And again, I mean, I was going to have the Kling brothers on and from the old Ghost Lab show and what they're doing now, which is really exciting. But, something came up and that's the way it is. So I did a 1 ringy dingy, 2 ringy dingy to Frank. And Frank said, I'll be on.
I'm in.
Don't worry about it. I will just go and make up for it tomorrow because I have got 17 of those truck tires that I can run around with.
We're good. And don't forget tomorrow we build radios and eat pizza.
That's right. And I just want to let everybody here. I gotta let everybody know this one. Frank is the champion pizza maker of Western New York. I'm just going to tell you that right now because whenever we have an event, whenever we have a little something going on,
thank you, Peg.
Frank brings pizza. And it's like amazing. And we have a Paranormal Oddities. What do we have? Paranormal Cooking. And Frank and I have both been on there at separate shows, but we will be doing a combo show. The two of us are actually going to be cooking. And of course, Frank is always going to make a pizza. It's one of those things that it's a prerequisite for him. Absolutely. But tomorrow we're actually going to go and we're going to build some radios or some spirit filter boxes to kind of, with some noise killers so that we don't hear that nosebleed static that comes through. Exactly. And you'll be able to hear, whatever comes through a little bit clearer. So that's what we're doing tomorrow night. Just let everybody know. And of course, Joe's an angel because he's going to close the store at 8:00. He's going to put up with Frank and I tomorrow. So he's going right to heaven. I'm just going to tell you, he's going right to heaven. So guys, Frank, stick around for a couple seconds, baby. Plug everything you got plugged, baby. Talk to everybody. Tell them what you're doing. Tell them about the show. Tell them about more about your events.
Come check us out at ParaNiagara.com. That's where we do our ghost hunts, our public ghost hunts at the Western Block. We do public and private. All the information is there. And every other Monday, we are you will see me and my co-host Lydia Manson. We will be on Locked Up Paranormal. The next venue we'll be speaking of will be the West Virginia State Penitentiary. That'll be another one. So that is coming up in 2 weeks. It was 2 weeks from yesterday. I don't have the date offhand, but it's at 9 p.m. We go from 9 to 10. And we hope you join us and enjoy the show. And I'm going to give one more shameless plug that we put out last night. If you go subscribe to our YouTube channel at Locked Up Paranormal, when we get 500 subscribers, Tim, show them what I'm going to do. I'm going to get that tattooed. So go tell everybody to subscribe, and I'm going to get little Frankie tattooed.
Little Frankie. Stick around. I got nothing after that one, Frank. stick around for a couple seconds.
All right. I'm going to be running. I'll be right back.
Okay. Dear God. That's my buddy Frank Kupka. Frank Kupka and I steam together. We have a good time together when we're investigating, or we're just looking for weird stuff, or we're traveling out someplace, and we always have fun. But guys, let's just go and let's be serious here for a couple minutes. Let's say some prayers and send some healing out to the world, especially the people out in the Ukraine. It's a terrible thing that's going on there, and so let's do a little special something tonight before we go to bed. Just remember them in your prayers, and remember everyone who suffers in this world from both physical maladies as well as those of mental maladies. And thank you all for coming on and just enjoying it. This was a great show. I always love it. This is hysterical because the two of us actually just go, we just prattle on like old washerwoman. So you've been listening to the Black Cat Lounge. My name is Tim, and you've been hanging out where the elite meet, next to the dumpster transfer station. Ciao, babies. I love you all. Take care, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.